you need to act like an entrepreneur if you want to be an entrepreneur. If you want to be a painter, that's fine. You can act like a painter. But I don't think if you're listening to this podcast, at the start of April here in 2025, that you want to be a painter, right? Even if you're still a painter, you want to be an entrepreneur. And one of the first steps of becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business person, is understanding finances.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe.
I want to thank the sponsor of today's episode, HireBus. HireBus is founded by badass entrepreneur and friend of the show, Brandon Vaughn. And HireBus will help you hire the top 3% of applicants, whether you're looking for painters, production managers, sales reps, administrators, or whatever role you need to hire. HireBus makes it super easy by handling the entire sales cycle and just sending you the top 3% of candidates. They also have some really crazy behavioral analytical tools where you can go and see exactly the preferences of the people you're hiring. So check out the link in the description. HireBus has a special deal for listeners of the podcast. Let's get back to it. What is up, everyone? Michael Hickman here, founder of PainterGrowth.com, and you're listening to the Painter Growth Podcast, solo edition. Don't have a ton of time today, but really wanted to get something out tomorrow morning. First thing, I am flying to Orlando, doing 4 days in Disney with the family before our mastermind, our twice annual mastermind. This is the biggest one yet. I think we have 85 of you beauties coming out to beautiful Orlando, where we are going to spend 2.5 days of transformation. It is going to be quite a banger. Anyway, today, what am I feeling inspired about? And I wanted to briefly talk about, what does it mean to invest in your business? We hear this a lot. Oh, my business isn't making any money right now because I'm investing heavily back into the business. I'm investing everything the company makes back into the business. So today I want to dive into, just briefly, in about 13 minutes or less, what does that even mean? How do you invest in your business? How do you track your return on investment when it comes to investing in your business? And are you making good investments? So let's jump into it. All right. So before we know if we're investing in the business or not, we need to understand a few key data points, okay, or financial metrics. So the first financial metric that we need to understand is if the business is profitable, or if we're reinvesting in the business, or if we're just bad business owners and we don't know how to run a profitable business, right? Those are two very different things, is gross profit. So gross profit is how much money is left over after you pay for paint and labor. So basically materials and all the labor it takes to complete the project. Now, if your business is making less than 45% gross profit, you need to fix that. The gold standard should be about 50% gross profit. Now, why is gross profit so important? Gross profit is important because that is the money that's left over that you have to pay all of your bills and potentially some profit, right? So the variable costs are your labor and materials. So the more you produce, the more your variable costs are. Your fixed costs, on the other hand, are all of the things that are going to stay about the same and aren't directly tied to your production. These are things like your insurance, your marketing spend, right? Which marketing spend could kind of, in some situations can be looked at as a variable cost, but because you can get an outsized return and it's not directly correlated, it's actually considered a fixed cost. So marketing spend is a fixed cost. Your insurance, your phone, your internet, your truck, your gas, all of those things are fixed costs. And so your fixed cost should be a month over month, a fairly similar level. Let's say your fixed costs are 10K per month, not including owner salary. Okay. Also, if you have like an office admin or any office staff, a production manager, those are typically in your fixed costs too. So your variable costs are what comes out of your revenue to get your gross profit. So if you do $100,000 in a month and you only have, say, a 40% gross profit, that means what you have left over to pay all of your bills and all your team, your non-producing team, and your salary and profit is $40,000. So 40% of $100,000 is $40,000. Okay. Now, on that type of business, you'll have between 10 to 20% of overhead. So I would say probably $20,000 worth of fixed costs. So you're now down from 40,000 down to 20,000 left over. Now, on that 20,000, you need to take a salary and say you have an office admin. Say your office admin is already accounted for in the fixed. So you have 20K left over to pay your salary and have profit. So say you, with that business, take a $10,000 per month salary, and now you have $10,000 left over for retained earnings or profit. Okay. So now in this scenario, when it comes to reinvesting in the business, it's this leftover $10,000 that you have to play with. Okay. So now you take your leftover $10,000, you put it in your savings account, and you put, $1,500 of that away for taxes because you're going to have to pay income taxes. But now we have this $8,500 that we can decide to reinvest in the business or, leave for a rainy day fund. So I recommend, before doing any heavily investing in the business, everyone try to get at least 3 months worth of what we call runway, 2 to 3 months of runway. And runway is essentially operating capital in a savings account that could potentially cover 2 to 3 months of your expenses if you were to stop producing. This includes paint, labor, and everything. So if you're doing $100,000 per month, that might be $70,000 to $80,000 times 2, so $160,000, to $200,000 rainy day fund type thing. And the reason that this is important is because that allows you to make decisions that aren't based on scarcity, allows you to make good business decisions based on logic, reason, and enables you to harness opportunities when they come. And if you're operating in a place when you have 2 to 3 months of operating income, cash flow in the business checking account, you're going to be a lot more comfortable, live a lot happier, and just run a better business and have a better life. So when it comes to that reinvestment in the business, so say we go back to this example, 100,000 down to 40,000, 40,000 down to 20,000, take a salary. Now we have $10,000 left over. How are we going to deploy this $10,000 now that we generated in terms of operating profit this month? Okay. So we can either invest it into marketing. So we want to double our marketing spend next month, and instead of spending $10,000 per month, we're going to double that to $20,000 per month. That can be a really good way to market or to reinvest in the business. Another way is you could increase production by either buying equipment. So if you have a specific piece of equipment you wanted to invest in, you could use that cash to buy it, or you could put it on a credit card and finance it over a certain period of time, reducing your cash flow needs. This is the main reason why people use credit cards, isn't to buy things that they can afford, but to prolong their cash flow cycle so that they can save their cash for other things that cash is needed. So instead of spending $10,000 cash on a new trailer, you could finance that new trailer for $2,000 down and $300 a month over 2 years. So now you're only out $300 a month, but instead of that $10,000, you might be paying $11,500 or something like that, right? So, but with that $1,500 over that 2 years, within 2 years, like, you might be way further ahead, or you should be way further ahead in that $1,500, and now you have that $10,000 cash that you can also use for marketing or something like that. Okay, so we have marketing, we have reinvesting in equipment, and I do want to be careful about recommending reinvesting in equipment because it can oftentimes be a vanity thing. Like, do you really need to buy that in spray booth, or do you think with what you're doing right now, you can hold on to your current spray booth for another 6 months, still get good production out of it, and not spend $12,000 on a professional spray booth? It's just like a fancy tool that you want that might make your life a bit easier, but you don't really need right now. So you need to assess the value of the different things that you're investing in to see if it's the highest impact item that you could be investing in right now, right? And so there we have marketing, we have equipment, and the next is people, is personnel. So there's a few different ways to reinvest in your people, right? Do you need a production manager? Oftentimes, I find contractors wait too long to hire production managers, right? If you're 50K or beyond, you should really be investing in a production manager. And it can even feel really expensive, right? If your business is just making, $12,000 a month profit, and you want to hire a $6,000 per month production manager, like, the thought of halving your profit to bring on this person is a scary thought. It's difficult to do. It's difficult to make that decision. But if you can expand your time horizon and look out a little farther, instead of looking so closely and being like, oh, this is going to half my profit this month, in 6 months from now, what does that enable us for production capacity? And what does that do to my time for me to focus on marketing and sales, right? There's so much opportunity if you can get your time back, right? Time is the most finite resource that we have. And so it's your duty to be delegating as much as you can and investing in the people to get your time back. Because contrary to popular belief, if you delegate everything that you're doing right now, you're not going to be just sitting around doing nothing. As a business, the business grows and your responsibilities grow. You're going to fill your time with more valuable tasks, things that you don't even know need to get done, But once you get out of painting, once you get out of production management, once you get out of sales, and once you get out of marketing, you're going to find a whole world of business management and things that you need to do that are going to consume your time, but that are deeply rewarding. So don't be afraid to delegate that. Spend some time, do some financial analysis, work with ChatGPT for a little while on it. Use it as like your little personal mentor, right? Speak into it, buy the $20 a month thing and talk back and forth with Chat and get to know it and explain your problems. And they're going to help give you guidance. Chat's going to help give you guidance on if it's a good thing or not. You can also upload your profit and loss statement to ChatGPT along with the financial plans that you have for your production manager or whatever investment you're looking to make. And Chat can actually give you a deep breakdown analysis of whether or not this is a good investment. Okay. So there's a few different ways there that you can reinvest in your business, on the personnel, on the equipment, on the marketing. But it's really important with whatever you decide to reinvest in your business, you look at it diligently and analyze the metrics before, during, and after. We don't want to just blindly double our ad spend if we don't know what our cost per appointment, cost per booking, close rate, lead slippage rate are, average job size is, and we can reasonably deduce a return on investment or a return on ad spend based on that increased marketing spend. So we can come up with some projections. But a lot of the time I find people just doubling their ad spend without any sort of analysis or thoughtful work put into it. And they just double it and hope it works. But we need to make sure we don't have a leaky bucket, a leaky funnel ahead of time so that we can make sure that investment pays for itself, right? If we're going to bring on a production manager, like what are the numbers? What are we going to be able to increase our production to? How many crews can they handle? What are the specific tasks that are going to be taken off your plate? How many hours per week is that going to free up your time, right? And then with that time, what are you going to be filling it with, right? And you're never going to be able to make a decision with 100% of the data and 100% certainty. But at least if you put some numbers on paper, put some thought into it, and do some due diligence, you're going to be able to make a better decision. And the last thing I want to go into today is, are you investing in your business and you're not profitable and that's why you're not profitable? Or are you just a bad business owner and you don't know how to run a profitable business, right? So these are two very different things. The first is, the distinction is, I hear people say my business isn't profitable because we're reinvesting in the business. And then they look into their finances and they don't know what they're spending their money on. They don't have a budget. They don't look at their profit and loss or P&L statement. They don't look at their balance sheet. They don't know their income statement or cash flow. They don't know how much money is in their bank account, but they know that they're not very profitable because their balance isn't growing in their bank month over month, even though they're producing 50 or 80K a month, right? That just means you're a bad business owner. So you need that financial analysis. You need to act like an entrepreneur if you want to be an entrepreneur. If you want to be a painter, that's fine. You can act like a painter, but I don't think if you're listening to this podcast, at the start of April here in 2025, that you want to be a painter, right? Even if you're still a painter, you want to be an entrepreneur. And one of the first steps of becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business person, is understanding finances. So what does that mean? You need to know what a profit and loss is, what an income statement is, what a balance sheet, and what a statement of cash flows are. And if you can understand what those financial statements are and how they work together and how to read them, that is going to open up a whole world of possibility, right? So I would recommend, if you've never done that before, we have training on that, of course, but just go on YouTube, go and look up financial statements for beginners. Or you can even talk back and forth with ChatGPT, again, just like a business coach, asking all the questions that you need. But I recommend using a YouTube video because they're going to show you all of the ways that the different financial statements interact, because numbers go from one to the other and they all work. Some are snapshots in time, whereas others represent periods of time. So lots of work that you need to do there, I think. So are you a bad business owner, or is your business not profitable because you're reinvesting? I can't tell you that from here. All I can do is ask you to, look inside and decide that for yourself. And either way, it's not bad as long as you address it and you can, you have time to improve. So make sure your gross profit is where it needs to be. Job cost, every single job. Be honest with yourself. Is there anything you could do more efficiently? And then once you understand that and you understand financial statements, then you can invest in your business in good faith. Have an awesome one, guys. See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.